The 1980s was a decade filled with iconic movies and big time box office sensations like this 1987 Predator, an action, thriller, horror in a decade filled with the most muscles, the most testosterone, the biggest sexual Tyrannosaurus you've ever seen, and this is Last Page. Let us take a journey back to the wonderful era of the 1980s. There was cocaine, rich and abundant all over the country, and Arnold Schwarzenegger, if you wanted to show an extraterrestrial, an example of a movie star, an action hero, in this movie, this guy, Arnold Schwarzenegger, is the guy that you would show them. This movie is one of the iconic not just monster movies, but action movies. It is a set piece that you have to watch this movie. It is fun to go back and enjoy this movie once again. And I am more than happy to be joined today to talk about 1987's Predator with the lovely Monica Bryant, and across the oceans of the internet, Rembo and Jason Cedars. Once again, we are here to talk about On Last Page. It is October, and we have been filling this month full of horror. We just talked about 1982's The Thing, John Carpenter's The Thing, which you can check out on our channel. And this movie, it is not perhaps, the traditional horror, Jason, Freddy, Michael, all of those type of horrors. However, this is a horror movie that is tied into an action movie with a great ensemble cast. So, to kick us off, the plot line of this movie on the International Movie Database is a team of commandos on a mission in a Central American jungle find themselves hunted by an extraterrestrial. This movie was a box office sensation, most importantly. A budget of $12 million to send all of these actors and director and crew out into the jungle to film this movie for only $12 million, and it grossed approximately $98 million worldwide. This movie would spawn a bunch of sequels that have never quite lived up to the original's name. The most appropriately dressed and make-uped Rembo, you are fully geared up and ready to go to talk about this movie. Let me have it. Predator, how do you feel about this movie?
How do I feel? I feel like it's awesome and it's manly and it might be the manliest movie ever made. It's right there with The Expendables, and this is almost, I like to think of this movie as like a prequel to The Expendables, and that the Arnold from this movie is the Arnold in The Expendables. I like to make them a cinematic universe. But this movie is awesome because it stands the test of time, as there are a bunch of great 80s movies that do, but it's a very unique blend of horror, of a true horror film snuck into an action film. And there's like a good little cast with diverse characters that all have kind of interesting, not all of them are necessarily interesting, but a good handful of them are interesting with funny personalities. Arnold is his normal charismatic self, not the greatest actor, doesn't necessarily deliver lines great, but just in and of himself as a human being is a great lead in this. And I think the visual effects are awesome. I think they for most of the most part they date age really well. There are some like the little graphics here and there that aren't great, like the Predator swinging around like a tree and some of the invisibility cloaking and things like that don't really look so great. But for the most part, the actual and the body horror stuff is all really good. I'm very excited to get into this. This is one of my favorite. If you consider this a horror, like a true horror movie, this is very close to my favorite horror movie, and I love this movie.
Following the release of Rocky IV, a joke circulated in Hollywood that Rocky Balboa had run out of earthly opponents, and he would have to fight an alien in his fifth installment movie. That joke was running around Hollywood. So screenwriters Jim and John Thomas took this inspiration from the joke and wrote the screenplay based on that joke running around Hollywood. Isn't that fucking ridiculous?
That's crazy. I didn't know that. I knew the two brothers wrote it, but I didn't know that. Wow.
There was a joke like, yeah, well, we're going to write up an alien that fights Rocky. And then from that, we got this, I don't know.
Arnold is definitely, I think, is better cast in this than Stallone would have been.
Ooh, yeah, that would be cool. Yeah, you're right. Sci-fi horror is a weird word to kind of describe this movie, but it definitely is. And it does dance so many different movie categories. The action, the sci-fi, the horror, thriller kind of stuff, which I think it does a good job of representing them all. So I am like all of you. I am very excited to watch this movie. Countless times viewing it. Love the bro fest. Just the intro. It's like it is one of just seeing these just manly men come in, and it's almost as good as the outro. The very end of the movie everyone has that cheesy smile as like the shot, and they're all in the jungle and everything, and everyone gets it. I love that part about this movie where it's so based on these characters, these guys that are all these vets, or honestly, we don't get a whole lot of backstory on anyone of what their kind of like connection is to each other, or their training, or really even why they're doing this whole mission. It is very glazed over, but the whole big part of this movie is Arnold versus Predator kind of mentality, and I love it. So extremely excited to talk about this movie, and probably one of my top 10s. Yeah, definitely. Yeah,
I have to say,
let's get to the choppa.
Nice. I have to say, part of rewatching this movie, I've only seen it a few times. Part of the joy of this was watching Ms. Bryant's reaction to watching this movie, because you said that you only saw this movie as a kid. You had not seen it since you saw it as a kid. You just watched it as an adult for the first time. And her reactions to the shock and awe of the predator hunting and killing people and everything was worth the price of admission. So, Ms. Bryant, how was your experience watching Predator?
Like you said, I watched it when I was probably too young to be watching it. I was 4 when this movie came out, and I saw it when I was like 5 or 6, maybe.
Oh God!
Probably shouldn't have been watching it, but I vaguely remember them running around the jungle and like the predator chasing them around and stuff. But then actually sitting down and taking it in and watching the way he kills people, and then like seeing the three people he had strung up in the trees that were like skinned in the beginning, I was like, oh my god, like I didn't realize how gory this movie was, because I think we watched it on TV where like everything bad was like cut out and they only put certain parts. So then like I was able to watch movies that I shouldn't have been watching because they cut out all the really bad parts. But yeah, I'm just sitting there and something happens and then I'm like, what? What is happening? But it was great. Arnold is so great in this. It's the first movie I saw him in before he did Terminator, and I was just like, "Oh my god, this guy is so cool." Like he's like an action figure. So yeah, it was a super fun experience.
This is as anyone that's watched this show Last Page multiple times knows, we're a very bonkable show. We love pointing out sexy human beings, and this is a perfect example of a great, like, sexually charged, just, this is man at his best form, just jacked, wearing the least amount of clothing, glistening with guns, tobacco in the back of the mouth, just Gatling guns in the jungle. It's so wonderful. And when people talk about like, oh, you're portraying someone as a piece of meat, or oh, you're objectifying someone, like, shut the fuck up. This is a perfect example of, you're not objectifying, because all these characters are well defined. They all are very cool, interesting characters in and of themselves, and the actors all do a great job. it's not just like, if you're just a dumb person that's just there to show off, your tits or whatever, then yeah, I understand when people would be like, oh, they're objectifying. But this is a great movie that they're all cool characters and there's cool action happening, and they just so happen to look very sexy doing it. So I want to kick this off because watching this movie again was great because the broness is awesome. The going in the choppers into the jungle is great. There's the quick introduction of Dutch, Arnold Schwarzenegger, coming back and meeting up with Carl Weathers with one of the most internet iconic memes of all time is their black and white arms going bam. In fact, hey, right now we can recreate it. Bam!
That sounds pretty close too.
So just great, just off the cuff, just giant jacked arms, just like these dudes are, and you get this setup of Carl Weathers is the guy that used to be in the front lines, and now he's a guy that's behind the desk, and he doesn't do that kind of stuff anymore. But now he's going into this mission, and these guys think they're going in just to rescue some hostages, but there is a wonderful, very Vietnam feeling of this movie. In fact, it was weird because I always think of Tropic Thunder as parodying Vietnam movies, but I think Tropic Thunder is parodying this movie because it feels very much like, especially when they go in and they go guns blazing at a certain point in the movie, it feels so much like Tropic Thunder. And I was like, oh, I always thought it was Vietnam, but no, I think it's Predator that they're really imitating, because this movie was filmed. And shout out to the YouTuber Critical Drinker, because couple weeks ago he came out with a video called Production Hell Predator, and he talked about the behind the scenes of Predator and the tumultuousness of filming this movie. They went into the jungle, they all got diarrhea. The actor that plays the Native American was a chronic problem on set. He constantly wanted to get into fights, and this movie was just really problematic. It was so hot. It was like so many problems filming this movie, and yet it came out on the other side being a amazingly fun movie. That I love the bromance part in the first half of this movie, but I love the final third of this movie, which has very little dialogue. Jason, as a man that puts this in his top 10, talk to me about the beginning. We get the introduction. Alvin Silvestri, composer of Back to the Future and the Avengers, does the music for this, which is amazing. Talk to me about the intro and the characters that we get. How do you feel about all of the beginning of this movie?
That's one of my favorite parts is the very, very beginning is a ship flying over or past Earth. It's not crashing. It's not being chased by anything. It's not like the space battle. It's a ship flying by and then just dropping something off and kept on going. And it's like that right there. I remember like the first time watching this film, like that's something different in itself right there. Because every other alien is trapped here or in some firefight above our planet and they get crashed here, or it's like some situation that puts them on Earth because they didn't want to be. And Predator was coming to Earth to then we find out that he has been doing this, for years and years to hunt, this. And I guess in subsequential Predator movies, we find out this is their culture, like to become a man, you must go to a planet and, hunt some, random, very tough creature, is what every Predator has to do. And I thought that was just such a cool way to start it off. And you don't understand that until probably the end or even finishing the movie. But how that started off, I remember already questioning that this was going to be something a little different as far as how this alien is portrayed. But like I said before, yes, this beginning scene of them all kind of getting ready for some events that you don't really know what it is, and you don't really know where they are, and you don't really know where they're going. So it's like this very kind of brief description of what they're doing, which I think works well because it is the characters, and then getting to the action is what we want to see as quick as possible. So it's like, brushing over this kind of part was good, but the introduction of the boys is great. And I want to talk a little bit about the guys. Like Carl Weathers. Holy shit. So the last thing I saw him in was Mandalorian. That's what we're watching, right now is Mandalorian Carl Weathers. And now you see fucking Jack the shit Carl Weathers, who brings the A game as far as acting to this movie. I feel like some of the actors Arnold Schwarzenegger being the one bringing the least amount of acting chops to this movie. Like, there are some cringy fucking lines that Arnold has, and there's even some lines you can't understand. And I was doing some research on Arnold, where his first couple movies, they had to dub him because his Austrian accent was so thick the audience could not understand the English that he was saying. And so this is now his. I think I wrote down like
his accent is so thick because all his vocal cords are 4 times the size of a regular man.
Yeah. He works out everything. I mean, to become this Olympian and universe, in the same year, you got to work out every freaking muscle. So you're probably right. But yeah, got his start Conan the Barbarian 82, and then Terminator 84, and then Commando 85. Like, that was kind of the first 3. And then I couldn't find out, did Running Man come out before or after this movie? Because Running Man and Predator were both released in 87. And I couldn't figure out it's the dates, the release dates, and just about time. So it's like the Running Man and Predator were the same year. But how about those movies that Arnold did, in those like 5 years right there? Conan, Terminator, Commando, Running Man, Predator. Like, those are some of like the biggest 80s like big movies, and he was like in all those, and his first couple movies too. So he had already kind of like established himself by this point. But I thought it's so much fun watching him act, but did not do the greatest job of acting. Like the cigar stuff in the beginning and blowing the cigar smoke in the face of the officer, just how because Mimi's watching this with me and she's loving it, because I mean, she loves Arnold from the like the workout kind of side of it, but just the ego on Arnold, and my wife appreciates someone with a good ego sometimes, and he is just all ego right there at the beginning. So it's such a great introduction to him, along with Carl Weathers, like those two right in the beginning, and like Apollo Creed or Chubbs from Happy Gilmore, and like in Mandalorian guy, it's like I think of those characters not as much as this one. So it's so cool to see that. But honestly, Bill Duke, Mac Elliott, the character in it, he's probably one of my favorites actors in this, because I feel like brings the most acting chops to it, like how sweaty he is and how into the role and how scared he is. A lot of the movie I really like, but Jesse Ventura being kind of the other big one as far as the names in this, and he's awesome. Like the Blaine Cooper character, and how the minigun, and how I think the first thing we get introduced to him is on the chopper when everyone's putting the war paint on, and him spitting his just like mouthful of spit right onto Carl Weathers' shoe. Like he asks him something, and then he just responds with just a spit just right on his shoe. It's like, all right, Jesse, we see what you're bringing to the table. So it's like, and then the last guy being Sonny Landham, the Billy Soul guy, the American Indian dude, which is he also great character in this. I feel like him and Bill Duke were probably my favorite as far as the characters and bringing the acting chops to this. So definitely we'll get into that more. But one other little side note that I was doing some research on and found that Jean-Claude Van Damme was the original Predator actor. He was the guy in the suit doing it the first time, but I guess they're on location, or maybe even beforehand, but he's doing some of the stunts in the suit, and he's telling him, I'm not going to do these stunts. These are way too dangerous. They're like, you do these stunts or you leave. And he's like, peace, I'm out. And so Jean-Claude quit because of how bad the suit was. And and I guess this was the first iteration of the suit, though. And the suit was so bad, I guess. It was like these big, bright yellow eyes, and it was like a dog-looking mask, and it was very like cumbersome and fat and things like that. And so the guy who designed the suit is on a flight, and he happens to be sitting next to James Cameron. And I don't know if they planned this or if they were going the same flight, but James Cameron had just finished doing Aliens. And he's like, hey, I cannot get this creature designed for Predator. Can you help me with it? So James Cameron in this, God, I can't find out his name, who was the creature design guy, sat there and sketched out. Winston? Yes,
Sam Winston.
Yes, yeah. They sat down there and sketched out what Predator was going to look like. And James Cameron was saying like he always wanted to create a creature with mandibles, like having like things on his face. And they sat there and they did the little like mandible things, which I think is the best part of the Predator, creature, is that like such a different face to it. So, it's like that, this cast and how they all got dialed in and figured out is my favorite part of this movie, which I think as we talked about on the show, the cast and makes some of these movies for us. Story is good things, but we like to see these great characters brought to screen. So All right, I'll stop rambling for a second and move on. But yeah, the name of the characters
I
were
love the passion. I love the passion. You're
Oh.
clearly this is a you movie, and it's cool that we get to talk about this this movie. Rambo, the cast, the characters. Obviously, you are representing one of these characters. Talk to me about them.
It is I mean, with all the problems that they had, it is quite amazing how well it turned out. Because with movies today being such like executively controlled products of like, you have dudes in suits there on set bugging the director and making sure that their personal objectives are met, and then they turn out completely terrible. So it's funny and ironic that you have movies like this where it's a small group of people and they're literally just filming in a fucking jungle. The whole movie is basically just in a jungle, and it comes out as this beautiful little masterpiece. That being said, can we do like a pound for pound on most sexy to least sexy characters? I think if we're going least sexy, it's the nerd with the big pussy joke.
Black.
Oh yes, who cracks the most horrible jokes? Yeah, throughout the movie. Yeah.
I said what a big pussy.
My wife had to explain the first joke to me. I didn't get it.
I'd like a little pussy. Me too. But no, I think I love that all the characters have distinct personalities and they're all different. I like that. I like the as they're.
Sorry, you got to continue with the sexiness. You only told us the least one.
Well, if I can just rattle it off real quick. Shane Black bottom, or wait. Yeah, Shane Black is bottom, followed by Richard Chavez. No, followed by Bill Duke, followed by Richard Chavez, followed by Jesse Ventura, followed by Sonny Landham, followed by Carl Weathers, followed by Arnold Schwarzenegger.
It's a pretty good list. It's a pretty good list. I don't know, like Jesse Ventura and Sonny Landham, like you could argue for either.
You really could go
what kind
either
of experience you want. Because with Jesse Ventura, you're probably going to have like, you're never going to forget the night you were with Jesse Ventura.
An experience that you want.
I'm just saying, I'm not saying it's the best experience. I'm saying you will not forget the night you were with Jesse Ventura.
An experience. Oh, Lord. But I feel like that list is pretty good. I feel like that was pretty good.
That's a good list. No, I agree. I would sign off on that list for sure.
Anyway, I think I love all their different personalities. Jesse Ventura he only has a few lines, but they're all great. Arnold. That's the thing, is Arnold just he runs off of pure of two things: aesthetic and charisma. Which charisma translates, even if he's not a master of his English accent, it seeps through. And that's the case with all of his movies, is that he doesn't have any of these early movies where he's a stellar actor. He's in a bunch of actually really good movies, but it's not because he's a great actor. It's just because he has this kind of X factor about him. And you know that if you ever watch interviews, if you've watched Pumping Iron, you see it in who he is as a human. And so that all being said, I love that the start of this movie and the characters being introduced and everything. It's so it's not. I think it's not stated until almost like halfway through the movie, like close to halfway through, where the fuck they are. I keep on thinking they're in Vietnam or an Asian country, but then it's not until you actually get to that first. Get almost through that first firefight where they are blowing everybody up, and then somebody says something in Spanish, and I was like, oh, I guess we're in. I always forget. I'm always like, oh yeah, we're in like South America. And I love that it's just like it's not specific. It's not like, oh, we're going into Vietnam, even though that's obviously that could be very of the time, or that could be played into it. But I think the way that it's so the mystery aspect of this movie is brought throughout the story, and I think it's done so well because it really does give that suspenseful horror side of it. Even if it is super basic, it's not super complicated. They're getting like Arnold's all suspicious of Carl Weathers, and he's not giving us the full story, and what the hell is going on here, and all this is like it's so plain, but but then it just like it kind of accelerates after like it accelerates from this halfway point, and then all of a sudden all the kills get really good, and I'm very excited to talk about all the different kills. So Monica, I don't know who's up next, I think, but yeah, do you have a highlight of the kills, or like a peek of anything in the middle of that middle section?
I like even though we don't get a lot of backstory for all the characters, I like the way they interact with each other, and we just get little glimpses of their personalities and like the tension between like Bill Duke and Carl Weathers when he like kills the scorpion on his back.
Why?
It's just like unnecessarily just like and it's so funny, and then it just makes you wonder like why are these characters like hating each, like what happened.
Oh yeah, sorry, he says the line, I love it when he gets up in his face and he's like, you've been ghosting us all day, and he's like, I forget what he says, but he's just like, got that. He gets all up in his face.
They just have this, they're just like bumping heads. And back to what everyone was saying about Arnold Schwarzenegger's acting and the way he delivers his lines and everything. I really just think it speaks to his work ethic as a person. That's why he got cast in all these roles. It's like, yeah, the dude can't act, but he looks good and he'll do whatever you tell him to do. Like, I was reading the scene where he has all the mud all over him. It's like clay, and at night it was really cold, so he was freezing, but he still did all that. And he was so cold that he was like drinking some like rum or something to stay warm, and it just ended up getting drunk.
Classic.
But like,
Love it.
yeah, he's the meathead that will do whatever you tell him, and he'll look good while he's doing it. So I appreciated that. Of course, I appreciate a movie where there's like, men that are buff, that are just like sweaty. So I wasn't mad at all. I was having a great time.
This movie has plenty of men and plenty of sweat.
I was having a good time.
The cast, Bill Duke. It is interesting. Each individual cast member is very different in this movie, but Bill Duke is mostly absent for the doesn't say anything, doesn't really have any role in the first half of this movie. But I don't know if it's ad-libbed or if he just, because it feels very much ad-libbed when he starts to talk to himself and he's like in the jungle, he's starting to lose his mind because this thing's after him. Mm-hmm. And it really makes the movie a lot cooler because before that you do have the kind of binary CIA Carl Weathers guy, being like the pencil pusher, like, oh, you've been pushing too many pencils. That guy and Arnold butting heads, and it's very just basic. We've seen this in a million movies. But then Bill Duke being the soldier that like he sees the predator and he Gatling guns into the jungle, and then he starts talking to himself. And the face-to-face he has with Carl Weathers when he lets him know he could have killed him. And just those moments were so great. But then you also have, who's the Native American, the character?
Sonny Landham.
Billy.
Not Duke.
But yeah, Sonny Landham. Like that character having like a Southern, like Texas, like accent, but also being a Native American. Like they never be like, oh, he's the tracker. Billy, right? Billy, like they never do that stereotypical thing where like, oh, he's our tracker, and like he, just acts like stereotypical Native American, like, oh, he's the tracker guy that can. He just is, and like you can just see it like on his face and the way he acts. He's very much of the culture, but you don't have to resort to him being a stereotype. I feel like his character was very cool and nuanced in this action role, and then Arnold is just the lines don't always land, but maybe that's why for me the last third of the movie is so much better. Even though I like all the brouhaha and all the broness of everyone getting together and having the back and forth, the last third where there's almost no lines, where it's just the cinematography, it's the photography of the Predator. The Predator, which I guess now would be a good time to transition to talk about the Predator. The Predator, to me, if Darth Vader is Venom, the Predator is Carnage. Predator, the way the mask just makes him look like he doesn't need to say anything. He just looks so imposing. He's so big. He's so strong. The way he moves, he is such a threat. And when halfway through the movie, when he starts dispatching everybody, and Bill Duke, he puts the triangle dots on his head, and the camera angle is behind the head, and you just get blood splat back to the camera. He just starts taking people out, and you're like, oh my god. Before, you saw these commandos just really, like, they are very much within themselves, and they can take care of these gorillas out in the jungle. But once the Predator shows up, he is so above everyone else's ability. Ms. Bryant, once halfway through the movie, that's kind of when everything starts ramping up. How did you take in the action, and all of a sudden all of these very capable men start getting slain?
It's kind of sad. You feel bad for them. I mean, I felt bad for them because we spent all this time with these characters. We've seen them be badasses. We've seen them laugh and joke, and like now they're getting their heads blown off or their spines ripped out, and you're just like, oh, I liked him. He was cool, and now he dead. So I did appreciate that they did start showing the Predator more, and only because he's not just some CGI monster. They use practical effects. They've got the Stan Winston costume going for them. Like Stan Winston did the puppets for Jurassic Park. He did the dinosaurs and stuff. So like really cool effects that I appreciate more than the computer generated images that we're doing now. Like it's just too much. But when the Predator's invisible, it does look a little ridiculous, but I'm just gonna blame 1987 for that.
Yeah.
Because it was the 80s. Like things don't look as good. But once they start showing him, and he's just like, he's got like the big like dreadlocks or tentacles or whatever they are, and the face mask, and you're like, this thing's scary. Like if I was in the jungle and I saw that, I'd probably poop my pants. Like I'd be really scared. But I did enjoy seeing like the movie ramp up to that point where you're like, okay, are they gonna get away? Are they all gonna die? Because there's that point where Arnold gets shot too, and I was like, oh no, like Arnold can't die though. He's like the main dude. And then I didn't want them to kill Anna. I was like, don't kill the woman. But, he told her to get to the chopper, and she did. So I didn't have to worry about her.
Monica, you're so right about us loving these characters and then being killed, like we were just talking about in Friday the 13th. So much of these movies are demonizing the people about to kill, so you're okay with it as an audience. That at one point they demonize one of these guys. They wouldn't make him like, oh, he was cheating on his wife, or one guy's doing blow, doing a bunch of cocaine behind everyone's back, or just something random. We're like, oh, okay, I'm okay with this guy dying, but none of that actually happened in this whole movie. You're not a single person. I mean, besides Anna, I fucking hated that character. So, I mean, the damsel in distress, it was just a female to be like, and then have some side boob action throughout the movie was her only point in that. I mean, of course they murder every single gorilla in the village except for the one cute Asian girl. Like that was the one. I don't even know if she was Asian. like, of course she's the survivor that now they toss around and like take with them into the woods, which, I mean, this movie could have got a lot darker, but it's like, they definitely, if there was a bunch of Marine guys taking a girl with them into the woods as the only survivor, there's probably other intentions that they had for it. So it was just so fucking strange that they kind of went down this route with this girl hostage kind of situation. Because what was the point? Like, why did they take her with them?
There was Carl Weathers' character is like, we need to get her, and I don't believe it's truly fleshed out or explained why, but that's part of his
he says something, I think, to the extent of she knows about their positions, or he makes one offhand comment about getting information out of her.
Okay,
but she was like a hostage, right? She was like,
yeah, she's being taken against her will because they were like, she's going to keep running away. That's why we have to cover.
No, but she was one of the gorillas. Are you saying she's a hostage of the gorillas, or she was a gorilla?
No. They're taking her for, as Remy said, information. Yeah. But it is kind of left. I do believe they kind of leave it like that's part of the movie is the team outside of Carl Weathers doesn't really know what's going on, and Carl Weathers wants her for information, but it's still not like they're still not, and we the audience are not brought into exactly what she knows and why she's a part, but it is used as a movie mechanic.
So I mean,
and I think once they get to the camp and they're killing all these guys, and then she sneaks up on Arnold, and once he realizes, oh, it's just some chick, he's like, I'm not threatened by some girl.
Yeah, I mean, it's horrible how she's treated and looked on throughout this movie. And I mean, like you said, it's so brushed over the whole story and then, or the reason why they're there. But I mean, I had to do some research to figure out what the whole plot of this whole thing is, which it's the worst part of the movie, in my opinion, is when they're at the gorilla camp and they're kind of like figuring out what to do next, because we thought this whole movie was them going to the gorilla camp. And then now they're like, okay, well, we're leaving now. It's like, well, why were we here? And what are we doing now afterwards? And so finding out now it was a Russian-backed invasion of America was going to start from the Central American country. So the Russians were like planning on invading America from the South. And the Green Berets, the three guys who were in the helicopter, strung up the first time, was the first group that the Americans sent to stop this invasion. It didn't work. So they send in Arnold and Carl and everyone else, not telling them really what the mission is, but saying, hey, go down there and retrieve a cabinet member. Remember, the cabinet member is what we kept talking about. So the fuck's a cabinet member? Is that the president or the I mean, cabinet is such a broad statement for anyone who works in the White House. So it could be anyone at that level, that they're going to rescue at this gorilla camp. Well, I didn't feel like we were doing that the entire time we were there. They just start murdering everyone, and they're like not trying to get a hostage. And then afterwards they're like, oh, okay, well, we stopped this Russian-backed advancement. So, and then I guess she now knew the position of them, so she could have told the Russians or something like that where they were. So dumb, absolutely so dumb. And I feel like they could have done so much of a better job with that. But at the same point, how I started this off, I'm glad we didn't get too deep into why they were there, because the whole reason is just throw a bunch of buff, sweaty dudes in the jungle and have them fight some aliens. That's how we can get there as quick as possible. Let's do it. So I'm down with that. But yeah, one of the hardest parts, but some of the best one-liners from Arnold are in that scene, like stabs the guy against the wall, stick around. Blows open a door to one of the cabins, knock, knock. It was like line after line. I mean, it was nothing else but those for at least like 10 minutes where they're just one-lining as they're killing gorillas, which, I mean, good, but not great as far as your acting chops, but those great one-liners. But the really weird part of the movie. But then once we start to see the predator, yeah, so cool. Green blood, the clicking noises he's making, the audio of the actual predator, and then just seeing the camo for a long time. And then I think once they do the crazy shot into the woods, everyone with a minigun and just rocket launchers and throwing grenades and all that, I guess that's the first time the predator gets injured, and we start seeing all the cool little like devices that he does, the wound on his leg. He puts out some like liquid, pours it on himself, does some like little stab thing, and he screams and then like burns it or something like that. Like, I remember as a kid thinking like that was like the coolest part of the Predator, was seeing all these devices and technology that he's like making himself better with that we don't do. And the green blood too, like whoever's idea it was to make this bright green blood of this alien, and the homegirl seeing it on the leaf, and stuff like that. It's like, ooh, this is a cool, introduction to a new monster and stuff. So yeah, like once we get past that like really hard gorilla scene, we really get introduced to some cool stuff as far as the fighting and Predator and all that things. But movie got nominated for best visual effects in 87 but did not win. Is that right? I think I saw that on there, and I can't believe it. I wonder what other movie in '87 had better visual effects than this movie did. Because, yeah, creature feature of the blood, and then the best of the '80s visual technology, I think, should have secured that nomination. But yeah, great part of the movie, in my opinion, is once we get out of the gorilla stuff.
Especially after we get the reveal of like what his face actually looks like, because you think the mask is his face,
Yeah.
and then he takes it off, and you're like, oh.
But that doesn't happen until the very end with the fight with Arnold, right? When he's kind of sitting there and then like just pulls it all off and he like throws it into the water and kind of all that. Yeah. It takes a while to finally see that.
Rem, talk to me about the Predator, the actual, because we just came off the heels of watching The Thing, 1982, John Carpenter's The Thing, which was a creature that was hell bent on destroying and taking over other hosts, and its mission was just to immediately kill as quickly as possible and then adapt and keep killing. The Predator is very different. The Predator it comes to hunt, and the biggest thing is that it wants the sport of hunting. Talk to me about the Predator as a villain, as a movie monster, and kind of how it dispatches his foes into this towards the third act of the movie.
He's super unique in relation to how, because he is technically an alien monster. He kind of is both. And he's so unique in that he is killing for, like, I love the way that they develop the lore. Like, as you're going, they're trying to figure out what the fuck is going on, and then like the girl is so scared shitless that she kind of ends up giving a little bit of information as they're going, but because she has, like, she explains that she's like, this has been happening, like this isn't the first time that this guy's come, it's he has been coming, and so yeah, the not just is completely removed from just the design of the character, which I love, is just, yeah, the lore and the aspects of him that are so cool are his techniques. He doesn't just, obviously has laser weapons, but he doesn't just go through and just fucking mow everybody down. Like, he could take out multiple people at the same time, but he's very strategic. He's like he's very intelligent, but not so intelligent that he he can't necessarily realize his own faults, and like he has thermal vision, and there's limitations to that, as we see. But and so I like it that he has very man-like intelligence, and it's but it also, yeah, like very experienced and has like a I wouldn't necessarily, you don't necessarily get like a code of ethics from him, but just a specific process, and like you said, Jason, with all the tools that he uses, it's just a really cool way, and like it a really I think it's like almost accidentally brilliant for two guys that never wrote anything ever else in their entire, like, of note. They just happen to write this really cool character. Is impressive, but also maybe like just a happy accident. And then as far as how he looks, I think it's very well done as far as you don't reveal the face till later, and the creativity of how he kills people, and he holds their skulls as trophies after literally ripping out the skull and spinal column from the body. That shit is hardcore. That's awesome. But I think he's really well done. Also voiced by Peter Cullen.
Oh my god!
Peter Cullen does the fucking Optimus Prime does the Predator's voice.
Wow.
dude, crazy.
See, I would have gone the other way with it. I would have thought it was a
Megatron?
Megatron. I would have thought it was
Frank.
Frank Welker.
Yeah.
But I feel like he doesn't even have a voice. He's like using recordings that he
Well,
recorded.
that's another cool thing is that he has voice mimicry. He can copy voices and like I think so. I'm assuming Peter Cullen does the clicking and the screaming, like he has a little bit more little animalistic in that.
The laugh at the end.
The laugh at the end, dude, it's great using Sonny Landham's. Yeah, yeah, and I love that. I love that. Like he, yeah, and then that like in that before we like not to skip, but in that last fight with Arnold, he doesn't like when it just comes to the fisticuffs and it's just like mano a mano, he doesn't resort to using his knives like he could. He's like, I'm gonna just like fight this man on his level. And so you get these little like all these different really cool aspects of this character that make him so special. And it's unfortunate that we only got like 1.5 great movies with him, and that every other iteration of him has been nonsense. But not his fault, not Predator's fault, but an awesome character that really has been underutilized. There should be more good Predator movies.
Yeah,
I really do appreciate the first 2/3 of the movie, as I've keep hinting at the broness and the dialogue and all that. It's fun, like 80s cheesy to some extent, but the last third of the movie that has near no dialogue other than the very memorable lines, when Arnold is covered in mud and he's like, "Come on, kill me," and he's doing that, and like there's very little dialogue. In fact, one of the lines I didn't like was when Arnold is covered in mud and it's very studio-y. I assume the studio is when he says like, "Oh, he couldn't see me," and that was just completely unnecessary. But there's almost no dialogue in that last act, and everything is just the music, Alan Silvestri's music that plays, and it keeps the intensity keeps it going. And Arnold you see his eyes. And his eyes are just darting back and forth. And when he's covered in mud and he's hiding from the Predator, and then he's fighting the Predator, and yeah, the Predator comes at him with no weapons, and then Arnold resorts like a coward to like taking like a stick, trying to like to one up him. But no, it is really cool the way they film that last portion of the movie. And to me, it's such a brave choice. It's so uncommon. I can't think of another movie that does something like this, where it's very much dependent on chemistry for 2/3 of the movie. The last third is almost no dialogue. It is just the hunt, and it feels very grounded and real. It feels like Arnold has to use all of his wits without saying anything to be able to beat this foe that has dispatched all of his friends. It is so damn cool. Like I like the first 2/3, but the last third of the movie to me makes this movie such a unique experience. Him going through the mud, conquering his foe, luring him into a trap, and then dropping the trap on him, and that's when the Predator reveals his face. It is a really cool reveal, just like Darth Vader, how he reveals like, oh, he's just a broken old man who's had this suit to keep him alive. The Predator is this monstrosity with one of the greatest lines ever, where he says, "You are one ugly motherfucker." Like, great line. Let's go with no dialogue in that last act, and that's one of the lines. It's such a great line, because that's exactly what you're thinking as the audience. You're like, what? That's the thing that's been hunting everyone? What is that thing? It's so cool. And I really love that. Jason, the ending and the setting the timer, and there's nothing that says like, you don't need Arnold to say, "He's setting a detonator, I need to get out of here." You just know, and he starts maniacally laughing. The Predator maniacally laughs as he's setting the bomb off. What is that final for you, the experience for you, the top 10? This movie's in your top 10.
I mean, you're right. It is almost feels like a different movie. As soon as Arnold slides down that cliff into the water, it's like that's a different movie, like right there, but I did think we missed just a little bit leading up to that part, because I like some of the deaths of like Sonny and Bill and stuff like that. Like Well, there's this one part that I'll never forget from the movie, and I even thought about this when I started shaving as a man. When Bill Duke is dry erasoring his face, and they're sitting there, and he pushes so hard that it breaks off the razor on his face, like. And that looks real. That looks like he did this. And like we talking about Bill Duke, like I feel like a lot of this stuff was improv that he did. And holy shit, man. I mean, it's just bleeding and he's pushing and pushing and it just snaps and he doesn't even realize it. Someone else has to tell him what he just did. So there's like these moments where everyone starts to get peeled off one by one, dying as they do it. And then Sonny knows this is going to happen. So him standing on that bridge and just slicing it down his chest, you know, like taking the knife and just cutting all the way down his chest and just standing there and being like, come on. And Sonny and how he like looked at the Predator is a big part of the movie to me. Like how he respected him, how Sonny is even standing there multiple times and be like, look all the way out there. The Predator's just standing there watching him. He's one of the only ones that's like catches it the first time. I'm like, I wanted to see the Sonny versus Predator fight before the Arnold. Like it would have shown maybe even a little bit more of like how powerful the Predator was against just a normal human, because you almost think that Sonny is going to be the best candidate to fight the Predator at that point, you know? And so, and for him to just sacrifice himself on that bridge so that, that Butch and the girl can get away is cool. But then we don't get to see the fight. We just hear the screaming far away is probably one of the most under like utilized moments in that movie for me. And I always like when I go away from that, I'm like disappointed. Like I want to see like a comic book version or a show that tells us more about Sonny and what happened, you know, during the scenes that we don't see during Predator. So I just had to highlight that those two scenes with those guys and then just how they kind of die at the end is cool. But yes, going into the end Predator part is by far the best part of the movie, which you need. It's like the movie it's good. It's going and you got this high intensity. You're running through the woods and you kind of get a little bit of slowdown there at the end, but there's still like so much cool stuff happening, but it's not this high intensity. It's just like, and there's so many parts in the movie where it's dudes building traps, as I like to say it. There's like, it happens so many times this movie where guys are just doing this cool little trap stuff in the woods. And I saw this movie young, I mean, teenagers, and we used to play Aliens vs. Predators and Predator stuff in the woods. And it was us setting up traps in the woods to try to catch the Predator, you know? And it's like, and the flare going off, you know, and the wild boar attack, you know, and all this weird stuff that happens with the traps in the middle of the movie. Like there's no reason with, I think it's Bill Duke again, just murdering this wild boar. Like, is that him just stabbing something over and over again? Yeah. And then that's just the result of one of their traps going off. But now you get that moving into the end where it's Duke building all of these traps, you know, to stop the Predator, which is, and it's even funnier.
Or Dutch, sorry.
Yeah. Butch, Dutch, Duke. Yeah.
Duke, Bill Duke. Dutch, Arnold Schwarzenegger.
There you go. Building all these traps he doesn't even use on the Predator. You know, he has this very cool, like, come on, I'm right here. Kill me. You know, he's coming through it. And the Predator's like, I see what you're doing here. And just walks around it, you know? And it's like, you as the audience, your heart just fucking sinks at that moment too, because it's like, we just had a 10-minute montage of him building traps and it's not even going to happen. But luckily the result of the log being all the way in the air, you know, it helps him out on this. But yeah, another use of cool technology where he just starts very long fingernails, very nimble fingers. You know, he's doing like one of these across. I think it's like one of the girls who have very long fingernails who can still operate their iPhone, you know, kind of thing. And yep, the time bomb starts and blows up. And not to jump to the end. We're at that point now, but almost the best part too after this is how traumatized Arnold is by this situation. You know, like he's coming out like, I did it, boys, you know, and skipping to the chopper and stuff like that. Like he's fucking shook by just what happened. He like somehow survived a nuclear explosion. Like that was a mushroom cloud that came out in that explosion. That was not some like gas fire. This was like leveling countries type of explosion, which he somehow walked away from. But like, yeah, the chopper ride of them being so just shook by the whole thing, him and the girl who, oh good, she survived. But it's very strange that she's along for the ride at the very end. But yeah, great, probably one of the better endings to any movie like that, in my opinion, where it's like, I like to see that this movie, what you went through had some effect on you at the end of it, not just like, well, there's another day at the office, I'll just be joining you guys for the sequel. Which Arnold never.
He probably didn't have to act that much for that part. seeing how tumultuous the filming was, he probably really was traumatized.
Oh, I'm so glad it's done with. Yeah.
Yeah, final thoughts and ratings. Rembo. Final thoughts on the finale, the wrap up, the movie as a whole. Kind of give me your overall feelings.
Some great quotes to wrap us up with. Mac, or Bill Duke's character, when he starts singing to himself, and he says, long tall Sally, she built sweet, she got everything that Uncle John need. Not really sure what that even is supposed to mean. I guess I kind of have an idea, but it's so random and out of the blue. And then he's just like, I'm gonna have me some fun. He's just clearly like losing his mind. It's great line.
That's the song that they're listening to by Little Richard.
Is that?
Oh, I didn't
I'm
realize.
so
That's
uncultured.
the
I
song
definitely didn't
they're
get that.
listening to in the beginning when they're in the helicopter. And that's the song.
Thank you for that. That's a nice tie-in. I didn't know before. I just thought he was just sort of randomly singing. I was like, all right, it's just a funny line, but that's good. Okay, good to know.
Last song he ever heard.
yeah. But yeah. And final other thoughts are just, I've seen this. This is maybe my 7th time seeing this movie. I went on a spree when I first watched this movie. I think I was 16. It was I went on a horror movie watching spree. This is super random, but I went on a horror movie watching spree because it was the first time I was left home alone by myself for like a weekend. I was enrolled in Sierra College, and there was something that was going on in Southern California, I believe, and I couldn't go. I was left the house to myself. And so I had like a class or two that I had to go to, but otherwise I didn't have a car, so I was stranded, or I didn't have a license, so I was stranded at home. So I watched a bunch of fucking movies. I watched Night of the Living Dead, and I binged all of the Predator movies that were out at that time, which were Predator, Predators, Predator, The Predator, I think is 2010, Alien versus Predator. Yeah.
Predator
it
2.
Was that
Predator 2?
Well, Predators is Predator 2, I think.
Oh,
I think it's called Predators.
No, I think it's Predator. It's Predator 2, and then there's Alien vs. Predator Requiem. Then there's Predators, and then The Predator came out like a couple years ago.
Right. Okay, so yeah, you're right. Predators is the 2010
Adrian
Predator
Brody
2.
one,
yes.
Yeah.
So
terrible movie. Don't watch it.
I know. That's the thing. Is this really is head and shoulders above the rest? Predator 2 is okay.
It's all right.
It's I'm not a huge fan of it. Just because
that should be our next one, Predator vs. Predator 2. And I know I'm in the minority of that one. Yeah, go ahead.
But I think this movie is timeless in the creativity of the villain and the if you don't know what to expect from this movie, like when I showed it to Tony, I was like, "Do you have any idea what this movie's about?" She's like, "No." I'm like, "Sick." So it's just better to watch it not knowing. Like if you watch this movie not knowing what's going on, it's just like, oh, it's like a classic action film, and then hard cut. Now we're into some really intense horror, alien slasher almost, and I think it's super creative. I think it's brilliantly executed, and I always forget that it's directed by John McTiernan, who did fucking Hunt for Red October and Die Hard and like other great movies.
And then went to prison. Went to prison. For a wiretapping scheme of some sort, and never directed anything again. He's out now, but the last movie he directed was about was Basic. No, not Basic. I forget what it's called, but it's a movie.
You're right. Basic 2003.
Yeah, 2003. That was the last movie he directed.
That's crazy.
And yeah, but the dude, 80s, 90s, fucking king.
Yeah, Hunt for Red October is a movie we could definitely review. I've seen that movie at least 4 or 5 times.
Great movie.
Great movie, classic Scottish accent Russian
accent this movie.
But to stay on topic, so yeah, shout out to John McTiernan for making this movie happen as the hodgepodge it really could have been. But this movie's great. 9 out of 10. Fuck it. 9 out of 10. I love it.
I love it. Ms. Bryant?
I would give this movie. Okay, well, first, I love the characters. I loved the setting, the monster. I love the third act. A lot of third acts fall apart, but this one was really great because you have Arnold outsmarting the Predator. And the Predator realizes this. He realizes he's being outsmarted and then settles for old-fashioned fisticuffs because he's got an ego on him. And he's like, I'm not going to let this little wimpy human best me. And when he pulls everything off, and then they're just like, he's just like beating the crap out of him. And then you see like blood flying out of Arnold's mouth. I was like, oh my God, this is crazy. So I would give this movie 5 out of 5 and highly recommend it.
Love it.
Love it.
Jason?
There's one part, that last fisticuff scene, that I couldn't get around, and I remember this time too being like, oh, that's right. He's got his laser on his shoulder, and he starts heating up his blade on his. I'm like, that's not like a heat laser. We just watched this, be a red thing on someone's head. It's more of like a directional thing. So maybe has different settings on this sort of stuff. But like, that's the type of shit I'll get hung up on in a movie. I'm like, that wouldn't have heated up the blade. That is clearly just a sight thing. So I start watching that, and I get, but luckily there wasn't a bunch of those in this movie to throw me off. So I think I did my final thoughts enough. I am actually a 9 out of 10 on this as well. And once again, just probably the greatest ending to any movie, where it is the traumatized from the fight, and then we just get that B-roll of every character looking at the camera. It's like you say their name, oh, were you talking about me? Every at the very end, and you can tell it's when they were in the jungle too. They were like, all right, everyone, we need you to do our little outro thing. So all right, go. They could do it. It's everyone but Arnold. Arnold is still in an action scene. He doesn't do want to look at the camera. Smile. He's just still whoa, doing something like that. It's like Arnold Schwarzenegger, So I just wish movies would do that more often. I mean, I love watching the credits at the end, but I would love to get one of those little face shots of every single actor in the movie saying goodbye to me. Thanks for watching. So yeah, solid 9 out of 10. And let's just review this movie again, in a year. Let's keep doing every year or something like that, because I love talking about it. So yeah, great flick.
I just gotta say, I have to make sure we do not leave this review without quoting the best quote of the whole movie.
Get to
which Callie said before we got on here. But you're bleeding, man. I ain't got time to bleed. Okay. Best line of the movie.
That's
best
right.
line of the fucking movie.
Jesse Ventura has some great lines. I will not repeat all of them.
Can't repeat it.
But Jesse Ventura, I mean, the dude is a former Navy SEAL turned pro wrestler in this
Jesse
movie.
The Body Ventura.
What's amazing is that when I was watching the behind the scenes of this movie, is that there's a part of the behind the scenes where Jesse Ventura, and he's literally in character. He's in Jesse Ventura wrestler in character. So they're on set in the jungle talking about the movie, and he's in costume and everything. And he says, they came out and they measured my biceps versus Arnold's biceps, and my biceps was 1 inch bigger than his. And then they cut to Arnold, and Arnold's like, they came out and measured our biceps, and mine are 3 inches larger than his. And it's just and that's it. And it's just what? Who's lying here? But that is kind of Jesse Ventura in this movie adds such a hilarious dynamic. That pro wrestling, just entertainment. The guy knows how to be entertaining. You mentioned earlier, or maybe Jason mentioned earlier, the spitting on the shoe, and then Carl Weathers just being like, you got a nasty habit there.
Yeah.
There's things like that that really add a lot of flavor to this movie.
Well, we see all the governor qualities in him in the future for Arnold.
This
and
man was a 2-term governor of California, probably the last good governor we had.
Oh, no, he was referring to Jesse Ventura being the governor of Minnesota.
Governor
Yeah.
versus Governor. I take that back. You're right. But yes, 8 out of 10. This is a great movie. I really, and I'm said too much, but I really appreciate the last act that just is this mind versus mind, man versus alien. Just allows the audience to take in what is happening and doesn't need to spell out everything. It is such a cool, like, we really never see something like that outside of the final act of Apocalypta, a great internet or not international movie, but a movie that's not in English, but directed by Mel Gibson, which is Aztecs. It is a really cool that last act is similar to this, setting traps and taking out your prey. Yeah, the sexual Tyrannosaurus line by Jess Ventura. I don't know how that was written or how that came up, but just the hilarity of him offering people chew and then him just taking it in. The dude, yeah, just amazing character. Predator. If you haven't seen it, watch it. We've watched. You can go back and check out the last pages that we've done recently. The Thing, Predator, Friday the 13th, both the older one and the remake. Enjoy October. Enjoy Halloween. Enjoy horror movies. You live once and then you die, and then you never know what's going to happen after that. So you might as well enjoy some great fun experiences talking about the nether realm, death, all of those fun horror subjects. And this is Last Page, and we'll see you later. Bye!